Hello, Lorenzo here. Welcome back to KSP to Mars. Today we have episode 29, that is if I'm counting correctly, because in the last few episodes I have misannounced quite a few times. What we have here is not a space rocket, it's a test laboratory. This is the new laboratory unlocked in the previous episode with the gravioli detector, the gas and liquid spectrograph chromatography. Chromatographic spectrograph, whatever, stuff to analyze gas and liquids, and of course the laboratory itself. Put it on a basic rocket and we are going to see what it can do and well, what that will give us. I'm concerned about the power requirements. I think we will need a hefty nuclear reactor to power this. For that, of course, we need another science node that will unlock for us the generators that can be attached to the nuclear reactors. And as soon as we have those, then the space station is going to become really interesting, because then we're going to check it full of nuclear reactors, science parts, and other gizmos. Before that happens, though, not so much we can do in the space station. Right. So here we are. I have 3 crew members with me. I have Richsby, the moon veteran. He's in the command pod. And I have Henber and Saijmon, both veterans as well. They are in the laboratory. Wow, it even has an interior space. It's rather basic, but that is impressive for a modded part. So let's have a look at what this can do. The science laboratory, it can reprocess nuclear fuel. Well, that's not applicable now. It can activate the antimatter factory. I think if we do that, our energy is going to well, be drained immediately. We need a big, possibly fusion plant for this. 4 measly solar panels are not going to do it. But let's give that a go anyway, see what happens. We don't have an antimatter container, so that might immediately explode. Let's have a look. Power 0 megawatts, 0 nanograms per day. It doesn't even work on electric charge. It needs the megawatts from the from the nuclear reactors. It has lights. Ooh, it has glowy lights. Look at that. That's wonderful. It has pulsing science lights. That's good. Lights off. Yeah, we are in the day. We don't need the lights. Reprocess nuclear fuel, not applicable. Begin research. Wow, it begins sciencing and doing stuff. Wonderful. Science rate 0 per day. Oh, it needs 5 megawatts for that as well. So we need the nuclear power plants that generate megawatts for us. We can't do it with solar cells. So stop that. And well, I think a science generating laboratory on Kerbin doesn't work. We will need to have it in orbit or land it on the moon, and that will be the missions for the foreseeable future. Fortunately, we also have the gravioli detector. That should work here. Look, the sensor seems to think it's being calibrated. Well, that's great. Then calibrate away, keep the data, 6 points for us. And what do we have here? The liquid spectrometry, no ocean to sample. So let's see what the gas spectrometer tells us. It tells us analyzing. That means probably that we have to splash down this laboratory in the water to analyze the composition of that liquid. That's pretty awesome. Here we have nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, neon, helium, methane, krypton, and hydrogen. That's strikingly similar to our terrestrial atmosphere. Wonderful. Let's see, do we have analyze magnetosphere? Recorded. Well, these messages are a bit weird. It says I analyzed the magnetosphere, and it said I recorded measurements of atmospheric composition from Kerbin's surface. So I'm going to keep that as well. That is good to know. And then I suppose we have to get this thing into the ocean, which is, well, far away really. Let's give it a shot anyway. Firing the engine. It would be a pity, it would be a shame if these 3 Kerbinauts died here. Ooh, that's the solar panels. Of course, they don't work so well in atmospheric flight. It would be a pity if these 3 veteran Kerbals would die. We do have a parachute on this, but I'm going to try and, well, have them survive it. Hopefully that is possible. We are, well, steadily heading out to sea. We might make it. We might make it. We have to angle a little bit towards the... Ooh. I shouldn't go too fast, because then atmospheric and drag problems become a thing, I'm having a lot of trouble controlling the rocket, let me tell you that. It's not really a rocket, it's more of a science, amazing science vehicle. So let's point it that way again. Go on. Keep pointed in this direction and make for the sea. So tipping over and already throttled up completely. The problem now will be that, well, this lander thingy will be very top heavy. The pod is heavy, the lab is heavy, and this will be rather light, at least when it's burned out. So hopefully we're not going to flip over, but we have our parachute to help us with that. So hopefully I will in fact be able to make it to the water, and it does look as though that's happening. But what I was saying about the heavy front, it is falling over now. I can't really steer that up. This is probably aerodynamic stuff taking effect because we're going rather fast. And I'm scared now to deploy the parachute, but I think I'm going to have to do it or they will die. So that's the parachute deployed, and when we flip around, hopefully that will happen gently like it is now. And this will all go very well and land our 3 veteran astronauts in the water here. And look at that. Well, it did happen, but it happened without the laboratory. Hey, wow, the impact has been recorded. The science report can be accessed. Wow, that's good. Well, the science stuff from the gravioli detector, that did not survive the trip, because those were on the laboratory, but of course... No! Oh no, our 2 scientists were in the laboratory as well. 2 of them died. Shit. Well, Richsby has survived, and as a reward we're going to send him straight back to the moon to get science, so we can, well, get these kinds of laboratories in orbit with attached nuclear reactors to generate power for them, where they will do all sorts of scientific awesomeness for us. Let's have a quick look at the R&D station, see how much science we need for that. Let's see which one is this node I'm talking about, the electric generator. We need 300 for that, so we need to bring back 200 science points. I'm going to get a rocket to launch us to the moon, and I will see you on the launch pad. So there we are on the launch pad with our trusty moon rocket. I've modified it a little bit. I made the impactors for the seismographs different. I took off the gamma ray spectrometers that are rather useless, and I peppered the whole thing with gravioli readers, so we can do that science. So we can do that science from the low Earth atmosphere, the top Earth atmosphere, and well, we are out of electric charge already, so the only way to, well, remedy that is to launch, and I'm going to do just that and do all the gravioli readings, and I will be back at you when something interesting happens, because this is basically the same as all the last episodes. So see you after a long time. And as promised, there we are on the moon, or well, near the moon, and preparing to do an instruments only landing on the surface. You can see it's pitch black. The sun is in the sky, that is illuminating the rocket, but it is too low to the horizon to give me any meaningful glimpses of the terrain. Fortunately, we have the Kerbal engineer here. This is the number we are interested in. This is the 13,000 meters, 13 kilometers up, and this is our vertical speed. Now I have a feeling that the engineer is going crazy because I have fuel tanks and small engines here, hence it's telling me delta V numbers that are too low. At least I hope so, because otherwise we're in trouble. I don't have reason to believe that that is the case, because the ascent was fairly nominal, pretty much as was to be expected, as has become routine. Another thing is that the extra weight of these unmanned roboticized command pods for the impactors is having a larger effect than I thought. I hope not, though. One thing I'm very happy about is the gravioli detector. I stuck a ring of 6 here on the pod because they have to come back to the surface, I think. I have a feeling the Kerbals won't be able to collect the info from the sensor by going on EVA. And they give me 60 science per biome in orbit around the moon here. They also gave me 20 for each one on Kerbin, but well, I overrode them. Well, I transmitted them home for a few points. But here on the moon they gave 60 points per biome, so that is some good science. I'll show you. In fact, let's have a look what happens when we log some gravity data. Here, space just above the moon's northwest crater. Keep that data, and now we're going to focus on the landing again. If this delta V indicator is correct, we won't have enough to go back to Kerbin, but we will have enough to get into orbit, which makes a science and Richsby rescue mission quite possible. Hopefully it doesn't have to come to that though, because that will be tedious and I want the science points now. If it does come to that, I don't really know how that could have happened. We don't have so much fuel left in this central tank. Maybe some hundreds of meters per second of delta V just got magicked away on this mission. I don't know if that is the case though. So let's decelerate some more and trust this instrument that will tell us where the ground is. It tells us 3.5 kilometers below us, and hopefully the slope won't be too bad, because well, if there is a slope we can't see it, and we will discover that by well, hitting our landing legs on it, crushing them on that. Hopefully that's not going to happen though. I'm going to slow down to 30 meters per second, roughly highway speed, careening down to the surface at, well, what I said, highway speed. 2 kilometers to go, so that gives us a time frame of about a minute. Impact time 27 seconds, so not quite a minute. Let's see if we can reduce that a little bit. To 25 meters per second, and we have an impact time of 30 seconds. Again, not the ideal suicide burn approach, but well, I've been fairly gutsy, I think, especially with the low light and everything. I'm going to assume we can accelerate at 1g, and that means we need to punch it roughly now. If we can keep, I'm going to try and keep the impact time constant at 10 seconds. No, that's too dangerous. We're coming in very hot now. See if I can keep it constant. I think that's a good goal. 10-second impact time. Now, of course, we need to impact. We also need to watch the vertical speed. This was a crazy idea. Keeping the impact time constant, that's basically just hovering. But hovering in like a second derivative. Oh dear, 1 second. I'm not sure, are we down? Yes, we're down. Wow, I had no idea that that was actually a landing by the numbers, and it was silky smooth, I think, because, well, I didn't even notice we touched down. Right, so let's time warp forwards and see if we get some sunlight in a few days, because then, well, that makes experimenting just... Oh, we just had the sun set, actually. The lunar day takes about a month. No, 15 days, half a month. Let's time warp forwards for that amount. Because we can't send Richsby out in the dark. This was bad mission planning. Of course we want to... there we have the sun again. Going into the sky, and here we go. Very, very nice indeed. Right, so first things first, let's do our science. The materials bay hasn't been done here before, 100 points. Collect that, mystery goo, 40 points, wonderful. I'll do that twice just to be sure. That blasted symmetry, and see if we can get a different gravioli data here. From the crater, 80 points, wonderful. Of course, next up is Richsby's own sampling prowess, where he can do an EVA report, of course. Oh, space just above the crater, of course, that we have done many times over, but landed here, that we didn't. So take a surface sample, we didn't have that yet, and of course the flag. Northwest crater. Now comes the interesting bit. Now we want to do the what's it called? The impactor experiment. This is why we brought these two probe cores, and it might be what is going to be Richsby's demise if he can't get back to Kerbin on this vessel. Of course, I shouldn't forget to do the crew report as well. Store that. Well, in fact, we can transmit that home because, well, the EVA reports they transmit for 100%, so that's safe to do that way. What I wanted to get at, of course, well, let's time warp so that this data gets transferred. Go on. So that data is transferred. What we're going to do is have these impactors give a go. So record seismic data. And now we're going to do control from here. And activating these engines. Activate that engine. And then we're going to undock, decouple the node. And yes, now we can lift off. Oh no! Why does this have 0 electric charge? Well, that's a bummer. Fortunately, we have another one. And of course that needs to be charged up. So, direct sunlight. Our solar panels are producing, but then our batteries aren't charging. So I'm going to use some time warp for this. What is consuming the electricity? Oh, the SAS system is drinking it all up. I don't know why. This one now, anyway, has charge. This one is, well, a lost cause, really. That's just sitting on the docking port there being useless. That will fall off when we leave. But we are now going to control this from here. So we will activate this engine. We shall activate this engine. And then the charge is on. Then we will decouple the node. And now we're going to switch to it and see if we can't fly upwards. Yes! This is the point. This was the point. So, ooh, this is far too much fuel. I could have left some of that in the rocket to take it home, but I didn't. So, this is going to be the impactor. Bam. Somehow on the moon these impactors, they don't count or something, or maybe it has to be a manned ship, because if we now go here, I will tell you the impact will not have been recorded because it didn't it didn't show a little message. So I don't know what's up with that. We can just go home now. And we have 2800 meters per second. We might just make it with that, actually. We might just make it with that. And we have some fuel here that we cannot get at, so that's a pity. But let's see if we can't wait until the moon is in exactly that spot that we can launch just by going up. Actually, we're almost at that point. So we're standing here. That's pretty much, we have to go up and point a little bit towards the 90-degree heading. I'm just going to try and make it to, well, to Kerbin. So here we go, lifting off after another failed seismic experiment. Bye bye. And of course, ditching these useless stages. Heading straight up is what I said, and now we have, what, 2800 meters per second of delta V. Hopefully that is going to be enough. Hopefully that's going to be enough. We did always have like 600-700 left over after these runs, so I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that we will be fine. So let's add a maneuver node and see if we can do it from here. Okay, let's cut the engine here and see if we can in fact make it. Ooh, this would have us exactly make it. If we go for a bit less, 400. This would have us exactly make it. Exactly. So we would have 20 meters per second to spare. Let's just go for it and do that. Oh, this is going to be super tight. So I'm going to fire this engine. Hope we can make it that way. And I will see you when that has concluded, because this burn is again 3 minutes. See you in a bit. And there we are, we have 250 meters per second left to go in this burn and 270 meters per second left in the tanks. So, as I've always been doing, let's delete the maneuver node and just kind of let the encounter scroll while I'm thrusting. So, well, it's not a porn title, it's not scrolling while thrusting, it's not nerd porn. This is rocket science. Yeah, this periapsis is inching every second closer to Kerbin, and I'm going to cut the engine just as soon as that is at a manageable level. And then hopefully I'll have a few meters per second left to fine-tune that once we're a little bit closer, because they do have a habit of changing while in the neighborhood. I think the prediction was bang on, and we are going to make it. We have 85 meters per second left now. Oh, this is. Oh, I know the math. The maneuver node already said we were gonna make it, but this is so exciting. I want this Kerbal, this Richsby, is his second time to the moon. I want him to get back and be able to deliver his science. No. No, are you kidding me? No. 288 kilometers and that's it? Oh, no. No. Oh, shit. That 25 meters per second, that was lost in the fact that most of the burn was done at a higher altitude from the moon than the maneuver node. Oh, that was so close. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of the capsule. Transfer all the science, and then fling the ship around and throw the capsule prograde. Hopefully that will do it. And if that doesn't do it, I'm going to go out and push with Richsby. We need such a low amount of delta V. That is a viable strategy here now. So let's first collect the science, as I've always done so far. And then we are going to work on getting this capsule back, because there's no way they have to send up a rocket to give him like 5 meters per second of delta V. No, that's not going to happen. Remove that data. Collect the data, remove that. So, there we have it. And just for posterity, I'm going to try and see if I can get the gravioli data. Oh, I can! Wow. Well, that means all the data around Kerbin has been transmitted for no reason, but that also means that this data is, well, coming back with us in the capsule. So it doesn't even matter if the gravioli detector burns out on re-entry, because we're still counting on a re-entry that's going to happen instead of Richsby Kerbin being lost in space. I still don't know where that delta V went. Did it all go into the impactor probes that that we brought along? I think so, because the cannot store experiments. Board anyway. I think that's going to be the double goo canister. I hope it's not all the gravity data. Let's have a look. We have 7 stored data, so it's not all the gravity data. Good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the SAS torque wheel to rotate the ship around, and then when we are at this point, I'm going to release the capsule so that it is flung into a trajectory that is somewhat more prograde, so that it is going to have a lower periapsis on Earth. So here we go. Let's see if that did anything. Ooh, that took 100 kilometers off our periapsis. We are now inches above the atmosphere. Granted, if we enter the atmosphere at 114 kilometers, well, it's actually 104 kilometers, so we would just not make it. But if we did make it at that altitude, we would have to do quite a number of passes. Fortunately, there is another trick we can do. We lock the orientation of the pod here, prograde. We take Richsby outside and use his jetpack thruster to push the capsule. Now, I don't really like using these kind of, well, hacks. Really, they're a bit hunky dory. I don't know. They don't feel really authentic or realistic to me. But at this point, we need like literally 1 or 2 meters per second of delta V, and I think that is excusable to get that from a jetpack. That we can conceivably MacGyver that in place. So and now we just have to actually MacGyver it in place. And of course not overdo it, because then we're going to die upon re-entry. So that was a small push. Let's now get back into the capsule and see if that actually did something. Oh, it's 102 kilometers now. So we need to have a slightly longer push of that sort. I was being too careful there. Of course, we don't want to see Richsby crushed now upon re-entering. That would be heartbreaking. I would even suffer through a multiple pass re-entry just to get this hero home. So one push, that should be 90, and another push should be 85. Let's have a look at the current state of affairs. Let's get inside that pod, and oh, it flings us away. It didn't like all the pushing. Go on then. This is a science treasure trove on a collision course with Earth, well, hopefully on a perfect re-entry course with Earth. Because we ran out of fuel. What do we have here now? 84 kilometers. We could do it, but we want 75. So we're going to make a small adjustment once again. And of course, we have the distinct possibility that when we cross the sphere of influence boundary to Kerbin, a small error glitch will add or remove a few kilometers from that periapsis. Normally not a big deal. Today, a very, very big deal. I hope that doesn't happen. So here we go again, a small push, and we're going to just go with it now, even if it means multiple passes through the atmosphere. Oh, get back in there, Richsby. Don't lose that capsule. Don't you dare. Of course, the manned maneuvering units that NASA used to use with the space shuttle missions, they had about 20 meters per second of delta V. I think, well, you wouldn't push a spaceship with that, but it's only about an order of magnitude outside of what we are accomplishing here. Get inside and let's have a look at that. 76 kilometers. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So now let us time warp forward to that sphere of influence boundary and cross it as slow as we can. So now, of course, as slow as we can is just that one-time time acceleration, but then I have to wait for several hours. We're not doing that. So 3 minutes. "76 kilometers. It's still on that periapsis. So that's amazing. I'm very happy with that. And wait. Oh, I was wondering why can't I control it, but it was still at a time warp. I was afraid for a second that Richsby had been left behind outside the spacecraft. But he wasn't, and we are now approaching re-entry. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! And we can do more gravioli readings because that has those sensors are now still outside on the pod, and the readings from the sensors are now inside the pod. So more science for everyone. So that's really, really good. It makes me happy at any rate. So let's orient this pod retrograde so that Richsby can survive and start cranking out these gravioli readings. Just above Kerbin's ice caps, great, keep that. Time accelerate forward so we hit a different biome every time, great. Above Kerbin's water, keep that. Kerbin shores, keep that as well. Oh, if this re-entry happens correctly, we have so much data. That's wonderful. We can unlock those radiators for the nuclear engines and well, start building a space station really, which is awesome. Let's have a look here. We're at 5 frames per second when the atmosphere boundary happens. Nothing to be done about that. That's all the mods taking control and figuring out whether or not I should burn or not. 20 points from the highlands, and I think that's about all the sensors filled again. Now we have one more sensor here available. So what do we have here? Highlands again, that is no good. Let's throw in some time warp. Log the gravity data. Grasslands, that's good. Now we can afford to not pay attention to the sensors anymore and just see how this first re-entering pass will play out. Surface. We are at 74 kilometers. Our vertical speed is dropping. Our G's are at 2.2. And it does appear as though this will definitely be a multi-pass re-entry. I'm not going to subject you to that. I've been yammering at you for quite a while already, so I will see you on the ground or if something disastrous is happening. So, ciao ciao. And here we are. From this point, we're definitely going in. Our periapsis is at -3 kilometers, or otherwise known as we're gonna hit dirt. This is the point where it becomes interesting. We're exceeding 5 Gs of deceleration. We have 6 kilometers per second yet to go, and yet we are falling, sinking rapidly through the atmosphere. If this indicator is going to exceed, well, 10, then I'm going to instruct Richsby to pull the chute, even though he himself might not make it back safe and sound. Looking at the G reading from the KSP engineer, here on the left we're now coming up on 7 Gs. Of course, the more G's we pull, the faster we decelerate, the sooner it will be over. But if that curve is balanced in a lopsided fashion, then the crew can eat it. I've never had it where it says reaching crew G limit. Oh dear, what the hell was that? Oh, that was the gravioli sensors. A few of them anyway. Well, too bad. That was a nice idea to bring them back home. Fortunately, all the readings from the moon are inside the capsule, so they are safe and sound. And I have good news, the Gs are dropping. We had 8.4 Gs at maximum load, which is, well, fairly reasonable. From here on, I dare say it's a guaranteed success to the surface, so I'll see you there. And as predicted, here we are wafting down to the surface of the sea. We have 2 gravioli detectors left. Of course, that's probably, they do have data in them. Let's have a look. Kerbin's highlands and stuff. So yeah, we have data there. And let's recover the vessel and cash in on the science. We are sure to have a lot. Richsby, 2-time veteran to the moon now. He's been on the surface twice in different spots and made it back. Once with plenty of fuel in his tanks and once when he had to go out and push. We made 560.1 science point on this mission. That means we have 730 now. That's a lot of science. 120 from the surface sample, 40 from the goo, 100 from the materials, 80 from the gravity scans, and we can do a lot more of those because you have in space just above and in space high above all the moon probes. So I might send a small probe, although the transmission value is not as high, I might send a small probe that does a few polar orbits of the moon and then comes back to return that gravity scan. And of course I can do the same thing with Kerbin for a slightly lower reward. One thing we can be sure of, the gravity scanner is going to be on every vessel from now on to every destination always. It just makes too much science to not include it. Right, so that's 730 points. Let's move on to the R&D building and get that science node that we've been pining for, and maybe some others as well. So this is the one I've been talking about for a few episodes now, the electric generators to connect to the nuclear reactors powering our stations and the science lab. So we need this for power. So boom, get that, 300 points. Now we have 430 points remaining to play with. We can get large probes. No. We can get specialized electrics. What's that? Bigger batteries, radioisotope thermoelectric generator, microwave beamed power receiver. No. This is awesome. This beams microwave power somewhere, and this receives it, I think. This is awesome. So then we can either in orbit of the planet or somewhere else, we can make a big station. This is going to go on our station as well. Everything is going to go on the station, and this will beam microwave power to a ship that, well, presumably uses some kind of high-tech drive that requires a lot of power. This is awesome stuff in the works here. We can get this ion drives. Ion propulsion, xenon container, Attila thruster. What's an Attila thruster? Adjustable throttle inductively after burning arc. Could that be the Vasimir analog? A superior thrust. If we use argon, we have 0.05 kilonewtons per megawatt and then 600 ISP. So we can use a lot of different kinds of propellants, and then well, use a lot of power and power that. Oh Jesus, this is complicated. We're going to have to build some nuclear rockets to experiment with this stuff. What do you have here? Antimatter collector, containment devices. Yes, we're going to experiment with all this stuff, but first we're going to. Ooh, plasma thrusters. How did I look over that? What do we have here? This is the ion drive. It's the ion drive node. Wow, I'm so fucking blind. This has plasma thrusters. That is awesome. A small plasma thruster. What does that do for us? It consumes 3000 megawatts, so that's 3 gigawatts. It has 0.01 kilonewton per megawatt, so if we give it 100 megawatts, it has a kilonewton, and it has 11,000 ISP. Yes, we need this. We need this for space probes. Nuclear powered space probes. Yes. This is amazing. Let's get this node, and we're going to play with this in the next episode. I'll promise you that. We've been to the moon enough times. Boom, 300 science there. I've completely forgotten about the main sales here. This is the interesting bit of the tech tree. Anyway, I've been talking for a while already. This was Lorenzo today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to all these fancy technologies to push our boundaries to the stars. And for now, let me tell you thanks. Enjoy the ride. See you tomorrow. I have no idea what I'm going to say apart from click all those share buttons, likes, comments, and subscribes. That stuff. So, see you. Thanks.